Hello, BookTube. It's October, if you didn't know. So it's headline news. It's October the 2nd. 3rd. 3rd? October 3rd, yeah. I had to check. So yeah, and usually this month I normally read ghost stories or some sort of history of sort of literary ghost nonfiction. I'll try to do some of that this month, but I've been absent the last week. I've been getting some injections because my B12 levels were extremely low, and I was getting injections every 2 days. The last one's on Monday, so tomorrow. And since I started getting them, it's supposed to help me with my fatigue and everything because of long COVID. But it actually did the opposite. It made me more tired, and there were days that I just had to rest like 22, 23 hours a day pretty well, and barely have, I couldn't read anything. So hence last week I didn't do any videos. I had planned on doing a book to film this week or yesterday, but I couldn't. I'll talk more about that at the end of this video, but the reason for this video was to come on and apologize that I haven't had videos this past week. Hopefully, fingers crossed, everything will be okay. I'm starting to feel slightly better yesterday and today, so I don't need as much rest. Hopefully it'll go back to the way. Well, I'm hoping it'll disappear completely, but I don't expect that. But anyway, the reason for this video is a top 10 list. I've noticed Michael K. Vaughan's been doing quite a few top 10 lists, and he did a recent horror top 10 films. I disagreed with 3 of them because I didn't think they were horror, they were science fiction. But it doesn't really matter. Some good films in there. So I thought maybe I'd do something like that. Prompted me because to me October is ghosty month, so I thought I'd do a top 10 ghost films. Sounds easy, doesn't it? Well, it isn't. First of all, I count a ghost film that it's actually real supernatural ghosts, not fake ghosts like 99% of the films out there that are called ghost films. So, but there are a number of ones that I really enjoy, and there's ones that I don't like, so they don't make the list at all. And I've got 4 honorary mentions, which I'll do at the end. So to me, it has to be a real, like, supernatural ghost. One of them is a little iffy on that. Well, it is that, but I'll explain when we get to it. Because, yeah. So we'll start out with a more newer film, especially for me. At number 10 is The Others from 2001. It starred Nicole Kidman and Christopher Eccleston and Eric Sykes, who was, Nicole Kidman, everybody sort of knows. I've never been a big fan of her, but she was good in this film. Christopher Eccleston, again, Doctor Who fans know him. Eric Sykes was on the Goon Show, on the radio, and lots of other stuff. But it was written and directed by I'm going to butcher his name here, Alejandro Amenábar. It's a Spanish film, or I guess Spanish, English, maybe American with some British. I'm not sure the full ins and outs of that, but it is in English, and it's about ghosts. It's a sort of a spiritual, let's put it that way, a spiritual sequel or companion to the Innocents, the 1961 film The Innocents, which we'll see a little bit later on the list here. so I really enjoyed that. That's the newest film that's on here, and it actually makes 21st century, which kind of shocked me for me with films. So, okay, let's go to number 9. Number 9 is 1945's Blythe Spirit, with Rex Harrison, Margaret Rutherford, Constance Cummings, Kay Hammond, and it was directed by David Lean, and it was based on the play by the same name by Noel Coward, and that was published in 1941. It's in color. It's a fabulous film. Margaret Rutherford is fabulous in it, and well, anything she's in, she's fabulous. Rex Harrison is good. Constance Cummings as well, and Kate Hammond. They're all top notch. It's a bit of a comedy. It's a light-hearted ghost. It's not a dark ghost film. Let's put it that way. But I thoroughly enjoy it, and it's something I watch again. And I do have to get the play. I am curious to see. I might even do it. Well, a lot of these I'll eventually be doing for my book to film series, which I'm fingers crossed I'm getting back into it. And then we go back a little further for number 8 to 1933. It's actually a pre-code, just on the cusp. Pre-code called Supernatural. It's with Carole Lombard, H.B. Warner, Randolph Scott. It's an odd one for Carole Lombard. It's very different. She usually was known for her comedies, but this one isn't, and it's a bit pre-code. It was directed by Victor Halperin and his brother, duo team, producer Edward Halperin, I think. The big film that people may know by them is White Zombie, is their big one. And this is a lesser known film, period. Kino's recently in the past couple years put it out on Blu-ray, so that was nice to be able to see it. It's an interesting film, by all means, and it's ghosty in the sense, well, they don't call it a ghost, but there's a spirit. So I've stretched the thing for spirit a little bit, which works, I guess. It's just usually when people think of ghosts, they think of a ghostly haunting in a house, like ooh sounds and so forth. But yeah, there's a little more to it than that. And then number 7 is the all-time Christmas favorite of mine. Well, maybe not the favorite. Well, it's up there. It's up there. Top 5, I would say, for Christmas films. Is Scrooge, is the British title, and the American title was The Christmas Carol. It's the 1951 version with Alastair Sim, Jack Warner, and Michael Hordern. And until now, because I looked up and I had to get everybody's names, and I'll list everything down below. I always thought it was Michael Hordern. Oh well. 40 years of thinking of him as Michael Hordern, and it's Hordern. Okay, there we go. But it's a fabulous version. He plays the great, I think, ghost of the Christmas Past, I guess. Yeah, he plays his former partner. Scrooge's former partner. It was directed by Brian Desmond Hurst, and obviously it's based on The Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens from 1843. It's my favorite version of the book. The previous one, the 19th, I think it's 37, is good, and they're like, I've seen, I think, almost every version. Like I've seen probably about 20 versions. I've seen a few foreign language versions. And in some ways, each one has an interesting little bit to it. But as a whole, the 1951 is really good. It's got more of a gothic feel to it as well. So that's why I like it. But so does the 37, has a little bit of that as well. But anyway, let's move on. That was number 7. Number 6 is The Ghost and Mrs Muir. 1947. This is a fabulous film. It's well acted with Gene Tierney and Rex Harrison, George Sanders, and a young Natalie Wood as well. It was directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz. Sorry, I'm looking at my phone here because I've got everything in a file here that I'll paste below. Joseph L. Mankiewicz is the director, and it was based on a book again, by Josephine Leslie under the pseudonym of R.A. Dick. Excuse me. She wrote a lot under the pseudonym of R.A. Dick, and the title of the book is The Ghost of Captain Gregg and Mrs Muir, but most of the time now it's published as The Ghost of Mrs Muir, paperback, and under her real name, I believe. The book was published in 1945. It's just a fabulous film. It's a fabulous film. Number 5, again, we come a little newer to the early 70s, The Legend of Hell House, with Roddy McDowall, Pamela Franklin, and Gail Honeycutt. Directed by John Hough, or Hough, Hough, I'm not sure the pronunciation because I'm not familiar with him as a director so much. But it's a fabulous film. It's a book, and the screenplay was by Richard Matheson, and he's fabulous. He's fabulous screenwriter all the way back to radio as well as The Twilight Zone, and many books that are fabulous. And it was called Hell House, the name of the book, and published in 1971. I've not read the book. Again, these are ones like The Ghost and Mrs Muir, and I can even do Scrooge, I suppose. Like, I'll do a film, a book to film, adapt videos for a lot of these. I eventually want to, because they're great films. But yeah, The Legend of Hell House is great. It's 1973. And number 4, we're going back older again, 1944, with The Uninvited. Ray Milland, Ruth Hussey, and Donald Crisp. It was directed by Lewis Allen. It's based on Dorothy McCardle's book Uneasy Freehold. That was the European, she was Irish, so the UK name, and then it was called The Uninvited for the American publication, but it was originally published in 1941. I did do a book to film, a video on this. I'll try to put the link down with this one, because that is, and it's a fabulous film. It's a fabulous film. I remember watching this as a child and really liking it, and then I sort of saw it again. I think it's Kino again in the U.S. Kino Lorber. That put out a Blu-ray of it. So, and then as soon as I saw the name, and then all of a sudden scenes that were been sitting in my mind for like 45 years or more, just sort of fell into place once I saw the name and who was in it, and I love it. It's a great film. Then we come forward again a little bit, to 1963 for this is number 3. The Haunting, with Julie Harris and Claire Bloom, Robert Wise film, great director. It's a book by Shirley Jackson called The Haunting of Hill House, 1959. It's a fabulous. It's that's why it's number 3. It's right up there. It's one of the best, I think, ghost films. Excuse me. There was a more recent. Well, when I say recent, was it late 90s, I think, so we're talking over 20 years ago, but adaptation of it with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Liam Neeson, and I forget who else was in it. It looked opulent, it looked good, but it was good. I have not read the book. Again, this is something that I have not read the book, so I can't compare it to say which of those versions are closer to the book, but I definitely like the 1963 version better as a film. Now we go to number 2. Now, see, number 2 and number 1 here could change places easily. And the only reason why number 2 is number 2 and not 1 is this thing about the spirits. Okay. This is The Phantom Carriage, 1921, silent film. Directed and starred Victor Seastrom. It's based on the 1912 book, Thy Soul Shall Bear Witness by Selma Lagerlöf. It's a Swedish film. And it's just fabulous. Like none of this. I don't really want to do any spoilers. Well, there will be spoilers for The Uninvited if you watch the book to film. But The Phantom Carriage, it's got a spirit. It's the spirit in it. It's not in the traditional sense of ghostly haunting, but it's a spirit, and they're ghostly looking figures that you can see through on the screen and stuff like that. The special effects are fabulous because they do, it was all done in the camera, so they would film, roll back to film, and then film again, roll back to film again. So there'd be like 4, 5, 6, 7 exposures to create this image on the screen of sort of otherworldly things, and it is fabulous. And it's people that are a fan of The Shining will see a scene that is taken from the Phantom Carriage. Now, drum roll, number 1 for me is The Innocents, 1961. Deborah Carr and Michael Redgrave. It's directed by Jack Clayton, and it's based on the book/novelette by Henry James, The Turn of the Screw, in 1898. Now, I have not read the story. It's one of the things that I've not read of his, but I will be, and I'll get to that a bit later. But yeah, no, these are the top 10, so let's just go through them quickly again here. The Others, more newer film, number 10, 2001. Number 9, Blythe Spirit, 1945. Number 8, Supernatural, 1933. Number 7, Scrooge / The Christmas Carol, 1951, the Alastair Sim version. Number 6, The Ghost and Mrs Muir, 1947. Number 5, The Legend of Hell House, 1973. The Uninvited, 1954. The number 3 is the 1963 version of The Haunting. Number 2, Phantom Carriage, 1921. And number 1 is The Innocents, 1961. Now, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people screaming, well, what about this? What about that? I've seen a lot of ghost films, and a lot of them I don't like. I just think they're cheap. They're there, so they're there as sort of, hey, look, we're ghosts. This is ghosts, and doing this rather than being part of the story and stuff like this. And people are, and I'm thinking of things like Amityville Horror. It's just too sensationalized for that. And Poltergeist, no, they would never ever come on any list for me. Even though I watched Poltergeist and I enjoyed it as a film, but it's sort of, it's way down low for me. And Amityville Horror, I remember reading the book and then seeing the film and enjoying both while I was quite young, a young teenager. So, but again, no, they would never do this. Now we'll go for, I'm just looking at the time here. Oh, that's not too bad, 20 minutes. Honorable mentions. There's 4 honorable mentions. And there's no order for these at all. They're just sort of the order that I popped them in here. The 1937 Topper with Cary Grant and Constance Bennett and Roland Young, Billy Burke, Eugene Pallett, and Hetty Hopper. Cary Grant, well, he needs no introduction. Constance Bennett, shouldn't. One of the Bennett's sisters. Roland Young, he was a character actor, and Billy Burke, also character actor, usually comedy. Eugene Pallett was a character actor, really good actor, with a really gruff voice. but he was a fabulous actor, but not a nice person. Hedda Hopper, an actress. She's got acting credits as longer than your arm, and she was also a gossip columnist. But yeah, she did silent films all the way up into the 60s and then some TV ones. And she played herself a lot of times. A great scene that she was in 1950, Sunset Boulevard, with, it's Gloria Swanson is the main actress, and I forget his name. But anyway, they're playing poker, and you got Buster Keaton there. You got H.B. Warner, which is a fabulous actor that I really, really like. Actually, I should have. He was in one of these films, I thought. Anyway, but I don't think I mentioned it. But anyway, yeah, and then Hedda Hopper was there as well. So it was an interesting little trio around the table. So yeah, so that's an honorable mention. It was directed by Norman Z. MacLeod, sorry. Again, a director I'm not that familiar with. And it was based on Thornton Smith's book called Topper from 1926. It's a great film. It's a comedy film. It spawned at least two, maybe three sequels with Roland Young, and Billy Burke at least was in one of them. But they're not great, but they are ghosty films as well. And they're fun to watch, but Topper was good. And again, that was 1937. And then we come up to a new one. Again, it's the same year as the others, which I was a bit surprised. Is Guillermo del Toro's 2001 The Devil's Backbone. It's in Spanish. He wrote and directed it. It's a fabulous ghost film as well, but just didn't quite make the list because the other ones are a little more favorites. But it is a great film, and even like I liked his newer one, Crimson Peak, del Toro's film, and it looked magnificent, but it just didn't have the oomph to it. I'd have to watch it again, but it was lacking something. And The Devil's Backbone was really good. It's set during the Spanish Civil War in an orphanage, and it's a child ghost, which is a little it's a whole sort of subgenre of ghost stories anyway, but not too many films with children ghosts, unless you count Casper. But we won't count Casper. Another one with spirits more than ghosts. It's a very little known, or at least I believe it's a very little known 1980s film called Nomads, put out in 1986. It was Pierce Brosnan who was doing Remington Steele. It was his first major role, and it had the lovely Leslie Ann Down in it, and it was directed by John McTiernan. It was based on a book by Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough called Nomads from 1984. She's a prolific author. I've never read the book, but I really liked the film. It was a very low budget film. People say it's confusing. I don't think it is. It also has Adam Ant on it. If there's any Adam Ant fans out there, I loved it. It has its faults. It's like Leslie Ann Down. Like there was a quote on Wikipedia that when I wanted to get the names and everything like that and find out if it was based on a book. And there's a quote there of her saying, well, she had a tough time with the director. He didn't like her, but she was saying that they should have based it more on like the supernatural aspects of it, and it would have made a better film. And yes, I agree with that 100% because I just read that this morning. So I agree with that 100%. And that's why it doesn't quite fit in to my top 10. But it is a fabulous film if anybody gets to see it. And then the last honorable mention is Burnt Offerings, 1976, with Karen Black, Oliver Reed, Betty Davis, and Burgess Meredith. Betty Davis is wonderful in this. I liked her in her early career, but then there's a certain point that I didn't really care for her. But then as she aged and got older, I kind of liked her again with her gruff voice. And she has a permanent cigarette stuck to her fingers and to her mouth in this film, so it's pretty weird. And Burgess Meredith is fabulous. He's always been fabulous in things. It was directed by Dan Curtis, and it's from a book by Robert Marasco called Burn Offerings, 1976. This is one I definitely will be doing for my book to film as well. But anyway, I am droning on here. Just the last thing I want to say is the book to film aspect. I had hoped to do 5 this month because I do it every Saturday, but I wasn't able to do one yesterday on Saturday because of last week. I couldn't get any other reading done because there is I don't have it here to hand. It's one of the BFI, British Film Institute's classic film guides on the film, and so I'm going to be doing it. They're going to be horror ones, not so much. Well, there will be Ghost, but the first one is Rosemary's Baby, which I'll be doing on this coming Saturday, fingers crossed and knock on wood. And then after that will be The Exorcist, Peter Blythe, and then the 1973 film, somewhere around early 70s film. And then, what's the next one? And then it's going to be The Innocents, which I mentioned here, the 1961 version, and from Henry James's novelette, Turn of the Screw. And then the last one I'll be doing is the 1932 Carl Theodor Dreyer's Vampire. It's a sound film. It's his first sound film that he did, and it was based on the Sheridan Le Fanu's Camilla. So that'll be the 4. I'll be able to do 4 this month for that. And the 5th, I was gonna possibly do Burnt Offerings, was going to be the 5th one, but I need to get the book for that. That's the thing. So but I will do that eventually. So yeah. And by the way, anybody's interested in science fiction, I've got an announcement that I'll be making. Some may already know about this, an event that's happening in November. I have mentioned it off and on, but the official announcement I'll be doing on Tuesday on my science fiction video, and I'll explain it all there. But I'll it's just, if you're interested in that, then do watch that, and then I'll be back on Wednesday for my hours in my library. So I do apologize for having disappeared last week. I wanted to put up a little, just to say, I won't be doing anything this week, little text thing. But I found out my computer's not working, so I'm just working on a tablet, so the mobile site of YouTube. So I couldn't do that. I had to be on the computer. So anyway, but yeah. So there is my top 10 list of ghosty films for October. Take care, BookTube.